Hi, this is Majnu, and I want to make a few videos about how to attack. And I've been reading, as I told you before, this book called Art of Attack in Chess by Vladimir Vukovic, and I found this example actually very clear, in the sense that it shows us how a grandmaster looks at a position to understand what to look for in an attack. So let's say attacking doesn't just mean going forward with all your pieces or starting a pawn storm and risking everything. No, an attack is always based on positional characteristics in the game. And for example, in this position we see, let's first simply look at the position without calculating anything. Okay, so maybe some of you are already calculating a queen g3 or knight f6 check or a g4 and g5. No, take it easy. Let's first look at the position and see what the characteristics are. Now, one of the things that draws the attention is that on f6 we miss the black knight. Normally, when black castles kingside, there is a knight on f6. Now, what's the purpose of this knight on f6 normally? One is that he looks at the center, but another important idea of this knight on f6 is to defend h7. That means that if the knight on f6 is gone, h7 can become a focal point for the attack. Now, Vukovic in his book talks about focal points, and by focal points he means the points where a possible attack can be directed towards, like in this example h7 for example. Now, another focal point in this position is g7. Now, why g7? Because we have this diagonal here for our bishop on b2. Now, of course, there is one thing that is obstructing this diagonal, and that is this pawn on e5. But if the pawn would not be there, then g7 would be a focal point as well. Another characteristic here is that white misses the f2 pawn. Now, missing the f2 pawn means normally a few things. One is that we have a half-open f-file. Another is that this diagonal is open. But in this case it's not that important, because white took precautions by going to h1 with his king. So we don't need to be afraid of any counterattack there. Another thing is that the diagonal for the queen has been opened. Now, the queen cannot go to h4, but g3 is available. So in favor of the attack we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 characteristics. So this will help us to look for possibilities to attack. I'm going to show you now the rest of the game. White played here knight to f6 check, and black took on f6. Now, if he would have gone to h8 with the king, then queen e4 makes use of the focal point h7. And if now the knight is taken, then e takes f6. Again, the other knight threatens to go to g5 and makes use of this focal point h7. So this is a won position for white. Black cannot prevent being checkmated. Now, in the game here, black took immediately on f6, and white didn't take back on f6. No, what he did is he first gave a check on g3. The king must go to h8, there is no other option, and now he took on f6. Now white is threatening mate on this other focal point g7, and is of course also threatening to take on e7. If black would try to prevent this mate, then this taking here is with check, a discovered check. So this is horrible for black, is losing completely. So now we see this idea of this open diagonal. In the game here, black took on f6, bishop takes f6, and now comes a move that is actually very difficult to find. When I saw this example, I was covering the moves with a piece of paper to try to predict the next move, and this is a move that I didn't find. The next one is very strong, and it's actually the only move that wins the game. It's knight to e5. With knight to e5, white is threatening to take on f6, because if black would take back on f6, then knight takes f7 check, wins the queen. In the game, black here took on e5, and white took the bishop with his bishop from b2. Bishop takes e5 check, and the only possible move for defending is f6, and here white played rook takes f6. And now we see that this diagonal has become so dangerous now, and the g file has been opened. It's actually, white is threatening, of course, to take on f8 with checkmate in 1, and there is no way to prevent it. If it takes on f6, then the next rook comes to f1, and we see that white has 9, 14, 17 points attacking, and black has only 9, 14 points defending. And these two other pieces, these three other pieces here, don't participate in the defense. So white has much more attacking power than the defensive power of black. Now I hope you found this interesting, in the way that to see the way how a grandmaster looks at the position, what are the characteristics, and from those characteristics, positional aspects of a position, from there we start looking for attack and ideas and possible combinations. Okay, I'll see you next time on YouTube, and leave your comments.